So our periods of uptime are represented by these four values, and that equates to 29,925 minutes of uptime. By the same token, we add up all of our incident time, we get 315 minutes. Now, those of you who are trying to do math in your head, those two values actually do equal 30,000. So what we want to try to do is find out the average amount of time we have for both uptime and incident time. And so we divide the uptime by 4 because we get 4 periods of uptime. We get 7,481 minutes. Incidents, we divide by 3, we can get 105 minutes. So how does that equate to what we're trying to talk about today? Well, 105 minutes represents our mean time to repair, or on average it takes IT 1.75 hours to fix an incident. And I'm on time already. Boy, I apologize. We are going to go over. And mean time between failure, on average, our service is available for 5.2 days between failures. So on an average week, that's great. This means all our downtime has to be on the weekends. All right, so there's actually a bonus by taking the time to calculate these metrics. As I say here, and here's a bonus, because by measuring MTTR and MTBF, we can also take a look at how we're doing against what we like to call service level agreements, or our agreement between IT and the business to how long how we will support that service. Here's our graphic from the previous page showing our total service time and our uptime. And in this particular example, we're going to say our service level agreement target is 98%, which means we want to have our service be available 98% of the time. So doing some fancy ostentatious graphics, we do a little bit of math. Uptime divided by service time gives us a nice quotient, or 98.95%, which represents our SLA attainment. We just squeaked by in this month because it's 98%. We got it by 0.1%. Woohoo! We made it. All right. So how do we capture these metrics? Well, I've got a lot of stuff on here. When a customer reports an issue, we open an incident and our clock starts. And until we confirm with that customer that the incident is resolved, that clock is running and running and running. So we have to call the customer before we get it done. However, and many times we fix that issue long before we contact the customer. So what we need is a way to stop that clock. And that's basically what all these words on this screen come into play. And the idea is that we use the status field in HP Service Manager. I am over time. Okay, that's okay. We'll get through this pretty quickly. So what is the status field in HPSM? Those of you who've used HPSM know what it is, but those of you who haven't have no idea. So lucky you now get to see for your first time what the HPSM incident form looks like. And highlighted in green now is our status field. How do we stop the clock? I said we use the status field. Well, here's the status field, and lo and behold, we have a status called IT resolve. This allows us to stop the clock from a fixing perspective and still allows us to keep the incident open to contact the customer. So, how does that impact all this stuff about doing MTTR and MTBF? Without that IT resolve status, it's difficult for us to measure when we fix an issue. Here we have the clock started when it's open. Here we have the clock stopping when it's closed. And somewhere, as this graphic shows, somewhere in the middle, we fixed it. We don't know really when, so we have to do a manual calculation on that, open up our Excel spreadsheet, scribble down the numbers, and then hopefully by the end of the month we figure out what we've done. If it's just one incident, that's easy to do, but what if we have a bunch more? So here we have a bunch more. And somewhere in all this time, we're figuring out where we fixed it. The worst example is did we fix it here or did we fix it there? So by the magic of using the IT resolve status, we are now able to stop the clock right away so we know how long it took us to fix it. And we can apply that to the rest of our incidents, and we now know exactly when we fixed it. And of course, in that worst case scenario, we found out it was actually somewhere in between that we actually did it. All right, so that means we are bringing it all back home. Whirlwind tour of incident management, MTTR, but at the beginning we decided what we were going to try to do, and what we've done is we've defined what MTTR is, mean time to repair, mean time between failures. We've shown how those metrics are calculated, all that math. We've also shown how those metrics can be used to support SLAs. We've taken a look at how IT is able to track MTTR through the IT resolve status. And finally, We've walked through an example of why it's important to use those MTTR metrics and the IT resolve status. And believe it or not, we're done.
All right.
And to support the idea of using multiple kinds of supporting documents, I have a little handy sheet for you to use so you don't have to do the math any further. Questions?
Is the resolve status the only status that stops the clock?
Yes.
Okay, next question. So when we submit a ticket, is there a target time for when we need to escalate that ticket when we don't have a response?
Sure there is, and that would be in your service level agreement, and that would be by service. So to be clear though, anytime you feel you're not getting the service you need, you can call that service desk and say, hey look, I need to know what's going on. And it's our IT's job to answer those questions when you have them. Now, interesting point, meaning we're way past our time, but this is a great question. I was actually expecting it. We set the IT resolve status, but if we find out by contacting the customer, you know what, it's not fixed, we just keep working on it. We reset that status to work in progress. And once again, when we find out when it's done, we set it to resolved again. HP Service Manager only saves the last time we set it to IT resolve, so we can, again, accurately collect that fixed time. Great question, DeMarco. Any further questions? And I'm like about 60 times past our limit, but thank you very much for your time, and I hope it wasn't too ostentatious. Have a great day.